I want to start today's video review of the latest DLC, Ode to Castlevania, inside of Vampire Survivors by saying, damn you, Wes, for getting me addicted to this game. And man, oh man, when you showed me this game, I'm like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And then I played it once, twice, 3 times. Bought all the DLC, beat all the DLC up to that point on Xbox, and then decided to start all over again on PlayStation, including the new Ode to Castlevania DLC. Yes, I did reinstall Monster Hunter Rise. I'll be doing videos on those very, very soon. But today's video, Ode to Castlevania, I gotta say, wow, it's really, really good. If you're familiar with the formula for Vampire Survivors, this will just look like a lot of more of the same, but obviously with that Castlevania flair. And I think they did such a phenomenal job in this DLC by capturing the things that are distinctly unique to Castlevania and making this DLC stand out definitely from some of the other DLCs that they've put out in the past. Not to say they aren't bad. This one's just very, very different. It has a very different map design to it. And unlike the other DLCs, this map does follow a pretty linear path in the sense of, yes, there are areas and hubs to get lost in and explore, but the way the outstanding grounds of the castle leading in through the castle through its various corridors will take you on a somewhat linear path. The boss locations that you will fight are static. Yes, there are boss fights in here, which is really, really cool. You're about to see one here in a moment. That is really, really cool as well. The idea here being that you're working your way through kind of some of the greatest hits of Castlevania. I could say if there's any downside to this DLC that I could possibly think of, it has to be that it doesn't feel as organic as some of the other DLCs. Granted, those are just giant kind of endless maps in any direction. This one does have a unique feel and look and charm to each area, but you will find that your playthroughs, at least in terms of location, will be very, very similar. Obviously, the build that you get, the character that you play, the world in which you kind of like work your way through will be different playthrough to playthrough. And we'll talk about the secrets in a minute and why that really does enhance the replayability 1,000-fold. I don't want to give you the impression that this DLC is stagnant or that you're going to be a one and done. You're not going to be that way. But the way the level is designed, it is forcing you to go through a very distinct path if you want to see everything and you want to kind of walk through the loose story, so to speak. So just keep that in mind with this DLC, a little bit different. So as with all Vampire Survivor DLCs, you are going to get a list of things to do, your objectives. You're going to have tons and tons and tons of things to work towards. Now, this one is cool because a lot of them are secret-based, and it doesn't really, they're vague. Now, you can obviously go online and you can read about them yourself, but they're kind of fun to uncover on your own and kind of decipher kind of what is going on out there. And a lot of the secrets do include you doing something unique, most likely to unlock a character. There's a ton of characters in this game. A lot of them cover all the Castlevanias, which is really, really cool. They did a good job of a good fan service here, right? So you're going to get to play with characters from the OG Castlevania 1 all the way through some of the later hits. And if you're not a super big Castlevania fan and you missed a few, kind of like me, kind of during that PlayStation 2, PlayStation 3 era. By the way, thanks PlayStation Plus, because I can go back and check them out now. But if you missed some of those games, don't worry. Maybe some of these characters might go over your head, but I think there's a few of them in there that you're going to squeal with delight and be like, that is so cool that I get to play as blank. And I felt that way quite a bit, which is fun. Now, to unlock these characters, again, with the kind of what I was talking about, the replayability of this DLC, you're going to have to do specific things. Get a certain ability up to a certain power level and kill so many enemies with it. You may have to go to a certain part of the map and use an ability to get to another part of the map that you didn't think you could get to before. It's cool. I like it. I think they did a really good job with that because if you want to be a completionist, it's not just playing and getting cycles and getting experience. It's actually doing unique things, and I think that does add to the replayability because, as you know, the way you get weapons in this is totally at random, and what your build is going to be is totally random. So you might be thinking you're going to do one thing, and very, very quickly you get a power-up or ability that might force you to go in a different direction and go check out a different part of the map and unlock a secret from that part of the map, which is really, really cool. So that's a really, really fun twist to this game. Additionally, as you're seeing here, the boss fights. There are these red skull icons all over the map. You finally get to them. You walk onto these platforms, and they will summon a boss fight from previous Castlevania games. Now, the bosses don't do anything unique, unfortunately. They just kind of walk towards you, but they are larger than life. They are a total throwback to the original design that they had. They are absolute damage sponges, and trying to fight some of these bosses later on in your run when you are getting absolutely and just swamped with enemies coming from all around the map, it does add a bit of fun tension because usually you're going to get a really cool reward for it. Again, if you're like trophy hunting or whatever, you're going to want to do these anyway. Additionally, what you're looking at here, a fun new mechanic, a side scroller. Yes, Vampire Hunters goes old school and forces you to fight the shadow of yourself, which it took me a minute to figure out what was going on. I thought I had to, like, I don't know what, touch it or something. I started, of course, taking damage like a bozo. But yes, there are mechanics, and if you get deep enough into the run, you will have to face yourself, which is a really cool mechanic. Unlike previous Vampire Survivor games where you're basically just walking to kind of mitigate the flow of traffic, using your abilities to kind of pave a path, whether it be more of like a horizontal or a diagonal direction. It depends on how you play. But here, you have to jump over your attacks while you're attacking yourself. It was just a fun little twist and treat. If you've played some of the other if you've played some of the other Castlevania games, you probably know where this is from which Castlevania game. I remember playing this. I remember these portals, these kind of like blue portals in the background that you could jump through that had like the key. It was one of the older 3DS games. I think it was a 3DS game. I just got done playing it and I can't remember. It was on the Castlevania collection that I got from my Switch. But I was like, oh, I remember this. Okay, cool. Again, if you don't know what it's from, it's not going to like ruin your game experience. It's just fun that they added this little mechanic to kind of keep the gameplay fresh and fun and to kind of keep the momentum going in the game. And it's cool because you'll eventually get there and you're going to kill yourself and it's going to be a big blast. And then back to just the traditional spam. The neat thing, they have this fun little transition here where as you kind of walk through this, the game will then revert back to its traditional like kind of 3D sort of like they can start moving around again. The 2D element is gone. That was fun. This run, I don't get all the way through the castle, which is probably a good thing. I don't want to spoil everything for you. I have highlighted a few of the key boss engagements for you and some of the fun twists. Trust me, there are more. There are more. If you keep going, I did get a little lost on this particular run. I kind of started veering off and working on some of the ancillary stuff, which in hindsight, because this build was so amazingly powerful, I wish I hadn't, but it is what it is. That's what's the fun of this. For like $3 or $4, you really can't go wrong with this, right? So, on top of all of the new characters, on top of all of the new map secrets to uncover, the boss fights, the ripping soundtrack, and there are a ton of songs. I should point that out briefly. They have taken music from every Castlevania game. Depending on the character you play, you will hear different music. It is really, really cool. The soundtrack is amazingly fun. I guarantee you there's a song or two in here you will recognize and be humming along to as you play. But on top of all of that, they've added a massive, massive arsenal, which is, what's exciting to the kind of Vampire Survivor. If you've gotten all the DLCs, like the Operation More Guns, for example, which I don't have any of those on here. This is a clean playthrough from the base game. with Castlevania. So I'm not injecting other weapons you might not have seen here. I'm just playing with those, the base game and the DLC only. But there's over 40 new weapons to unlock. Each of them will, you know, just like in before, you have to kind of progress through some of them. Some of the starting characters have them. You have to evolve a current weapon you have. Sometimes you have to evolve multiple weapons that kind of morph into a new weapon. But there are a total of 40 new weapons here. They are really, really, really fun. All of them obviously Castlevania themed. A lot of different types of whips and new throwables, and I don't want to even give them all away. I recommend you check it out. And the one thing I'll say too, when you do beat this DLC, which, and I say beat, I mean, do you ever really beat Vampire Survivors? Like, I don't think you do. But when you do get to the end of it, it's not over. There is more after the final kind of curtain call, so to speak. And it unlocks even more stuff to do. So when I got this game, they sent me a review code, and I was playing through it. They sent me an email, and they're like, hey, you know, and obviously I'm late to the party. It's been out for a while, but I wasn't in any rush. I don't care. They're like, hey, if you don't have time, we're going to give you a code that'll, like, basically unlock everything. So you could just jump straight to the end game to see some of the stuff we didn't show you. So in all the trailers you saw, and all the progression you saw, and all the videos and teasers of some of the weapons and some of the characters, that was only like half of what we had to show you. So here's like a code for you to go out and get more stuff, which I was like, wow. I haven't used it, by the way. I did earn it on my own, which is pretty fun. But it is an absolute gem to play. If you love old school Castlevania or any variant of Castlevania, like, I promise you will find something in here to enjoy. I think the approach to this kind of more linear level design is a welcome change for the series, and I appreciate it. And I'd like to see more potential narrative-based combat put into this game, just as an experiment. It really works here in this game. It really does work in Castlevania. Starting on the outside grounds, working your way through the crypts and the forests, finally getting to the front door of the castle, having to fight bosses to get into the castle, and then beginning to fight your way through these weaving corridors and the libraries and the armory rooms and all the different parts of the castle. It is a lot of fun. And I did appreciate that everything started, obviously the weapons and the enemies and the environment start to evolve significantly more to kind of change how you play. So, absolutely recommend checking this one out. It was an absolute gem. I loved it. Ode to Castlevania. Do yourself a favor. Check it out. That is my definitive, highest praise review I can give. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.